Hello there. What's going on, everybody? Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into the Recusant class Destroyer expansion pack for Star Wars Armada's Wave 10 from the Clone Wars. This is the second large ship for the Separatists. We've already done one for the Providence, or otherwise known as the Invisible Hand. I'll put a link to that at the end of the video. If you missed that one, be sure to check that out. Also, if you guys are new here, there's still time to enter to win the $25 Amazon gift card giveaway. You just have to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. Let me know what you are most excited about coming for Star Wars Armada. For me, I think it's probably this ship. Not since the Chimera have we seen a ship quite so long-range threatening. I think the Simoon was my favorite for a long time. Loved to run that with the lovely Thrawn Chimera design on there. Heck, that's actually what I'm sporting today. So if you actually, also, by the way, a little plug, if you're interested in Chimera stuff or any kind of shirts or faction things or any merch, be sure to check the links in the description below. There's links to my Teespring store as well as links to Discord, the website for the free expansions, the AI system. All of those links are in the description below. All right, so we're going to be talking about this particular ship because it's a long-range menace, isn't it? It's got this incredibly awesome front arc. Of course, it's angled downwards right here, but that front arc is really, really wide, and of course, it has the big side arcs. And this is just like a ship that's able to kind of fly at you and just almost be broadsiding you and double arcing you at the same time with its front and left or right simultaneously, which I instantly fell in love with when I saw this ship. That's how I like to fly my ships an awful lot, and so I thought that was really impressive with the way that this ship's front arc is set up. It is another large ship, which is another interesting thing with the Separatists having basically multiple large ships compared to the Republic. I like that the factions don't have to be perfectly symmetric, and I think that's a beautiful thing. We do have a good look at two different versions of this particular ship, and it's actually not that expensive for as big and nasty of a ship as it tends to be. Here we're getting a look at the Light Destroyer, which I think is my personal favorite version currently, because of the excess of red dice. Red dice are my favorite. Black dice are probably my second favorite. Even though they're more damaging, you can hardly use them until you're really close. But with the combination of red and black dice can yield an extreme amount of damage if you roll lucky enough, and I love to be able to try to do that. And there's some new tricks we're going to see in this expansion that give us a little bit of ways to mitigate that luck. We also saw this ship kind of shown off a little bit during the AMG live stream recently, and it's going to be a really, really fun ship, although not a whole lot of mass on this, right? This may be maybe the smallest large ship that we've got as far as overall mass. I mean, it's very, very narrow, especially in the midsection there. It's kind of like almost like it took some inspiration from the current design of the Nebulon B, in that it just has that skeletal frame kind of in the middle, kind of holding the front and the rear together. We also got a good look at some of the things that are coming with it. We've got a couple of other crew that we haven't really been spoiled yet, and it looks like we have TF 1726 that comes in there as well. That's I guess we're gonna have to wait until we can get better clarification on what exactly those do. But with the Recusant class support destroyer and the Light Destroyer, we got a decent look at them here when they were first spoiled. We could see that the Light Destroyer was only 85 points, which for a large ship is incredible. And kind of showing it that it did actually have a fair amount of upgrades on it, in that it has officer, weapons team, offensive retrofit, ordnance, and turbo laser, which, as cheap as it is, honestly, this is a ship that I probably don't want to put too many upgrades on, because it's already got a lot of dice, and for the price point and being a large ship with 8 hull, and a decent amount of shields, right? This is a ship that has 3 shields all around except for 2 in the rear. Here's a ship that's already pretty darn good. I feel like this is, and I will give you some builds, and we're going to use all of the upgrade slots just for the purposes of kind of experimenting with some ways that you could run it. But at my first glance for this ship, for this Light Destroyer here, is like, I don't think I want to put hardly any upgrades on this. Maybe, linked turbo laser towers, and maybe that's it. But I think this is a ship you can get away with just like trying to have a swarm of large ships, and you can run 3 of these and have points left over, for your commander, and then maybe a few squadrons. It's that beautiful, and I like that. I probably wouldn't run 3 too often. I mean, you could run 4 with points left over. Is what yeah, 3 you'd have a lot of points left over. 3 I think is actually a pretty good spot. 4 you could run. But you wouldn't have a whole lot of points left over for stuff, because you'd have about 60 points left over, 30 probably to a commander that leaves you with 30 points for upgrades and squadrons. That'd be tough. It all depends on which commander you go with, though. I mean, the fact that you can run 4 large ships in one build, though, is significant, right? So let's look at the other version, the Support Destroyer. This is the one that was actually previewed during the live stream. We can see that the Support Destroyer, we have a full preview of this one. This tells us a lot more about the ship as a whole. It tells us both costs, because now we know that this is the more expensive version. This one is 90 points. 90 points is, for the more expensive version, that's not even that bad, right? This one has a little bit different flak. This one has a red anti-squadron die as opposed to the blue on the light destroyer. And in the arcs are a little different. This one actually has some blue dice thrown into its front medium, or front, left, and right, and rear arcs. So we lose a little bit of the red dice and blue dice, or rather, and black dice in favor of a blue each, which makes this one a little bit more well-rounded, but less good at long range. We see also the defense tokens. We see we've got an evade and a redirect, which we already knew, but we also have brace and salvo. Salvo is certainly always nice. This is not the ship that's going to be as deadly with salvo, because we only have 2 dice, but the Support Destroyer will be a little bit more reliable with salvo, considering it's got the red and blue, and you won't have to be at close range to salvo with 2 dice. Otherwise, your light destroyer is only going to salvo with a single die, so that ends up not being quite as good there. We got 3, 3, and 3, so 3 command, 3 squadron, 3 engineering. This is not a terrible ship as a to be a carrier. It's decent. I feel like this is, if you're looking for a cheap flagship, this could be a way to go, or a well-rounded ship that can still, that doesn't need gunnery teams, even though it does have the weapon slot. So, again, this was one of the criticisms I had of the Separatists during the launch of their core set, is they had, out of the 2 ships, they started with none of the options of them could take weapons team, and I started to wonder if Separatists were never going to be able to take a gunnery team option, because none of their ships had a weapons team slot. Well, now we've got some ships that can, although this is a ship that might not need gunnery team, just because its side and front are so similar, and the way the arc is, it wouldn't be that hard to line up a double arc. So I like that. The movement isn't half bad here either. They're actually fairly mobile compared to some of the other large ships that we've seen. They at speed 3, they actually pick up quite a bit of mobility. So only 1 tick at 1, a tick at 1 and 2 for speed 2. But then at speed 3, they don't get anything on the first tick, but they get 2 ticks on the 2 and then 1 at the end, which allows them to take advantage of a lot of different mobility enhancing things. Anything that improves your first or last tick, they're going to be able to take advantage of. And we've already seen some of those. I talked a little bit about maybe a fleet command that you might want to run with the Providence in the previous video, so I'll kind of referencing that one again. This is not a bad little ship. I'm kind of digging it. We've got Shu Mai as another officer that was announced to come with this particular pack. She was fully spoiled here. She's a really nice officer. I really, really like officers that give you offensive, like ship versus ship capability. There aren't usually that many that do. But with the Clone Wars, we're seeing a little bit more. And I think that's one of the things that's going to make Clone Wars ships a lot more formidable when you think about their comparison to more modern ships like Imperial Star Destroyers, is that they have more notable people and less like nameless folks on board the ships. In the case of Sith and Jedi and other powerful people from the Clone Wars. And Shu Mai, at 4 points for an officer, she lets you pick 2 non-consecutive round tokens to put on the card after deploying fleets. And during each round matching one of those tokens, while attacking a ship, you may reroll up to 3 dice. And so if you're able to double arc, you're going to be able to reroll 3 dice on both attacks, so that's 6 dice. So she gives you at maximum, if you play her optimally, you'll get 12 rerolls out of Shumai, which is up to 12 rerolls, which is really nice. I really like that ability, especially with a ship that seems like it's built to be able to double arc. I'm in love. I think it's a fantastic officer. I mean, she can work on a lot of different ships, and you know, if you're running gunnery team on the Providence or something like that, she could do that too. Or she can combo pretty well with gunnery team as well. But I really like her on this ship, and I think she'll be an asset to the Separatists. So looking at some potential build ideas here for the Recusant Light Destroyer. I think this is my favorite version of the ship. I think this is one that I'd probably want to fly mostly without too many upgrades. But maybe it was my flagship, and maybe I was going to run Kraken. But Shumai, I think, is a shoe-in for this one. If I'm going to go light on upgrades, she gives me some excellent reroll ability, and I don't have to do much else. So she could be great just by herself. But if I wanted to fill up every slot, I'd say, well, you know what, this maybe this is an option to take advantage of the fact that these guys don't really need gunnery team, and what's something else I could do to kind of squeeze some extra dice and squeeze some extra offensive capability out of a ship like this. Well, I really don't like quad turbo laser cannons. I really don't, and I usually would never use them since they were recently made a modification, and I don't like that they were made a modification. But I was thinking to myself, you know, well, maybe here's an opportunity to squeeze a little bit more out of them. One of the things that makes them desirable, and maybe one of the reasons that pushed for them to become a modification, is that they can give you extra bonus accuracy, especially on a ship that doesn't have blue dice, that really could potentially take advantage of that accuracy. Also, now in a game where we're seeing less and less double tokens, right? We're seeing less and less double brace, less and less double redirects. Accuracies are a little bit more important now in the Clone Wars, so maybe this could be a good platform for trying out the new, revamped, and awful quad turbo laser cannons, and we can make that work a little bit better by you having Kraken as our commander, whether he's on this ship or not, and having weapons battery techs. Because now we have, let's say we roll 4 red dice out of the front arc. Maybe we get rerolls with Shumai, but we can wait on those rerolls. I could get an accuracy. Use quad turbo lasers to add a second accuracy, and weapons battery tech is going to let me change that second accuracy to a crit. So it's just adding extra damage potentially to every shot, and that's even without the rerolls from Shumai. If I didn't get the reroll with Shumai, if it's not one of the turns for her, that's not a problem, because Kraken I can still, like, at least once, if I didn't get it, I can kind of manufacture the accuracy, and then so we've got a little bit of a combo here, and without Kraken, it wouldn't be as easy to do. Of course, we have to have other ships that are getting closer to be able to work. But I think that could be, a workable combination. It would be semi-consistent as well. You just need to get one accuracy, and if nothing else, even without the accuracy, Kraken can manufacture it. Now, the only problem here is you don't want to have all red doubles. Well, maybe you do. Maybe that's exactly what you do want. Maybe you do want all red doubles. But turbo laser, or rather ordnance, isn't something that I'd usually really put on here, but if somebody did get close enough, external racks would work well, especially if it's on a turn with Shumai, because you're going to be able to reroll all of those dice as well. So that's also, you're going to kind of maximize your rerolls there. By having more high yield dice to be able to choose from. And you know what? Maybe we would use the offensive retrofit to make this flag bridge if Kraken was on this ship, giving us a one-shot of intensify firepower. I think that's a good option with someone like Shumai, who is only giving you 2 turns, where you can get those rerolls. The intensify firepower is going to give you, like, maybe you activate it on the in-between turn. Maybe you want Shumai to go on turns 3 and 5, and then you pop intensify firepower on turn 4 to kind of give yourself a little bit extra. Look, with a red dice heavy ship, you need extra mitigation, and these are all extra ways to kind of do that and to guarantee that works. Now, granted, I don't think you need necessarily all of this on the same ship, but that's some thoughts of ways to make the light destroyer especially deadly with all those black and red dice. I think it's it really has a lot of capability, right? If they all turned up doubles, Oh, that'd be a beautiful thing. You probably need to at least change one to an accuracy, though, right? And Kraken can do that for you. And then maybe the support destroyer. Not my favorite version, but it could have some different options. And one of the things that I think is interesting about this one, with the double offensive retrofit that this one has, it really got me thinking about, wait a second, boarding teams. Now, I'm not a super big fan of any of the boarding teams that are in the game right now. I kind of like Vader, but the problem is he's got such an opportunity cost, because that means you can't run any of the other versions of Vader, and Vader's good just about everywhere, especially as an officer. And so, well, I mean, the boarding teams aren't terrible, but they're just, none of them really wow me all that much. Especially on a red dice ship that kind of wants to be farther away. Well, with the support destroyer, with the blue dice, it kind of wants to get a little bit closer. It's not as good at long range. So this one wants to get maybe a little bit closer. And while I put boarding troopers up there, I am kind of thinking that this expansion would be a good opportunity for them to introduce new, maybe faction-specific boarding teams. This would be a great opportunity to have. And looked like there were some droids, in the preview, and maybe they're a boarding team. So you can swap this for any of the other boarding teams, but since they've got the weapons team and, extra offensive retrofits to spare, I feel like they're a good candidate for a boarding team. Plus, they can go fast, they can maneuver, and they can survive long enough to get there, and they're not even that expensive, because it's a cheaper ship. So if we wanted this the support destroyer to be a boarding team ship, to try to get close and have some some droids kind of assault the enemy ship, Rune Hako would be a decent option to have in case for whatever reason we didn't get the token when we needed it. He could kind of manufacture. He could kind of make sure we got that token. I mean, he's good for just about everything, but he would be especially good for ensuring we had the squadron token that we needed to be able to trigger boarding teams. Or whichever type of boarding team we got, whether it's a boarding trooper or some other card. That still leaves us with an extra support team. I'm sorry, not support team. We don't have support team just yet here. But offensive retrofit. And I thought, you know what? It's a large ship. The Phylon would work on anybody. If we're trying to, and I know Phylons isn't something we do a whole lot of, but maneuverability is a little bit less in the Clone Wars. All right, so being able to mess with people's maneuverability or just a little bit, just to hinder them a little bit more, could be valuable, especially if you are trying to get close enough somebody to trigger your boarding teams. Slowing them down a little bit with Phylons could be very, very nasty. So that could be a way to help you catch up to a ship, because speed 3 is cool, but it's not that fast. And especially if they're trying to match your speed, you can, going after like an enemy flagship that maybe didn't plan nav every single turn, now you can slow them down. And especially now, in the Phylons, if you're running Dooku, also you can raid and stop them from navving to speed back up too. So that's like another kind of a cool thing with Phylons. But I put Grievous out here because if Grievous is your commander, maybe for that turbo laser slot, we look at turbo laser reroute circuits. Now this is a ship or an upgrade that's not quite as great as it used to be. It's been low-key nerfed a couple of times. It used to be like maybe the greatest upgrade of all time. And it got nerfed to be exhaustible, so it was still good, but now you can only use it once per turn. And now, it hasn't been directly nerfed again. It's sort of indirectly proxy nerfed, because now all of a sudden evades are so much better. All these small ships want to save their evades because they can spend it to cancel 2 dice from a big ship. But what about when evade is on a big ship? Well, you're not going to be able to. Unless, of course, it's a super star destroyer or something like that attacking you, you're not going to really be able to use evade to cancel 2 dice, unless it's at extreme range or if it's a super star destroyer, right? So most of the time, evade's just going to force some, cancel 1 die or force a single reroll. So here's an opportunity when you've got the red dice to spare and you've got enough blue on this thing that you might actually get some accuracies on their own. Here's a chance for you to turn that red dice into a double, and that's awesome. I mean, it's a great thing to be able to do, and you don't have to worry that much about spending the evade because hey, you get it back with Grievous. Even if you've been shot and you've already spent your evade, now you gotta lose your orange. Again, that's one of the always been the problems with single evade ships with turbo laser reroute circuits in the past is that if you lose that evade, or if you've had to spend it earlier, now you don't want to spend it to trigger this because you're going to lose it. But Grievous can get it back for you. And I think that's a really cool incentive to maybe consider starting to take turbo laser reroute circuits on a ship like this. I think that could be a fun way to run it, especially if Grievous is your commander. All right, you guys, that's some of my thoughts on the Recusant. Honestly, at the end of the day, I think this is a ship you're probably going to want 3 of if you can afford it. Look, they're more expensive now, so saying that, oh, you should run 3 or maybe even 4. Yeah, but can you really afford that? Maybe you just get 2. Maybe you get 1 or 2 and you borrow 1 from your buddies and try that out because the prices have gone up. I'd love to hear what you guys think about the increased prices on the larger ships. I know $65 is a lot for these new large ships, and I don't know exactly why the price went up as much as it did. I would have expected it to go up at least $5 to account for inflation, but the fact that they're supposedly not supposed to be putting dials and stuff in these ships anymore kind of does make you think, well, or wasn't that supposed to be a cost-saving measure? Why did the price go up as much as it did? I don't know all these things. I know a lot of people aren't crazy about it, but at the same time, I'm really grateful to have a growing and more enhancing game. And the Clone Wars has been pretty cool so far, and I'm loving what we're seeing so far. I'd love to hear more from you guys. Big thanks to my patrons for supporting the channel. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for your continued support. If you are interested in supporting the channel, check out the links in the description below. We've got Patreon, we've got Teespring, we've got my website, and don't forget Discord. Hop in there, chat with us, join the community. I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you so much, and as always, have a great day.